Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Rockstar Manifestors podcast. This particular episode is a podcast only episode, meaning that I do not do this on a Facebook Live like I do for each of the weekly episodes. And that's because this is the Lunar Lessons episode. Lunar Lessons is something that first I started sharing on email, and then I put that into a blog. And then when I created and launched the podcast, I thought, well, that would be a great place to also share that and have it be something that is exclusive on the listening or viewing end. If you're watching on Spotify, they do have a video recording, and also the podcast is uploaded to YouTube podcast, but it is podcast specific. And the purpose of the Lunar Lessons, the iteration of it is actually to keep me accountable, keeping an eye on my intention. What actions do I take? What actions do I not take? And so sharing that with you serves a couple purposes. One, like I mentioned, keeping myself accountable and seeing, I can look back and see if any patterns are developing and how things progress from one lunar cycle to the next, and also to share with you guys to show that it is a journey. And even though I am someone who is sharing and coaching and teaching and talking about these things, I am also on the journey. I am doing it in real time. So that is the reasoning for the Lunar Lessons podcast. And I do my best to have the Lunar Lessons podcast and information up by or a little bit before the first quarter moon of the following lunar cycle. So for example, I am recording this on February 26th, 2023, and I am talking about the Aquarius lunar cycle, which is already over because we're into the Pisces lunar cycle. And I like to share them before or on the first quarter phase because that's when you can start taking action. That's actually when we all can start taking action, the action taking phase. So that if you did not set a lunar intention at the new moon, you can start by diving in and taking action to get clarity on your intention or to recommit to a one you've had before, or get back on the bandwagon, if you will. So action taking can be big action steps like physical action, or it can be an action of uh, starting something, recommitting to something, committing to something now instead of saying, oh, I missed the new moon. Now I'm going to wait till the next one. Absolutely not. You can jump in at any point and actually start to make some progress. So I write these things down in my planner, mostly my lunar journal. I'm still working on the right formula of where to jot these things down so that I can share them with you and keep them easily accessible. So let's see. Before I dive in, for those of you who are new, hello. My name is Patty. And also for those of you who are returning, welcome back. I specialize in helping you believe in your dreams, the ones that feel too far out of reach or like they might not be possible for you. That's what you're thinking anyway, or someone else might be telling you. I help you believe in your dreams and start showing up as the person who has them so that those dreams then manifest and attract themselves to you, along with the opportunities that get you there. And more often than not, much more than your dreams, additional stuff, extra stuff that you weren't specifically working towards. Also manifests or shows up for you. So for the Aquarius new moon or the lunar cycle, let me look at what my overall intention was. So I like to, since I write it down in my planner, it's kind of in real time as I'm writing it. So for Aquarius, the new moon intention overall that I had was authenticity as the CEO of my life and business, showing up as that person. How can I step more into that to attract more opportunities, grow my business, take it to the next level, all those things. Rebelliously believing in my biggest and most audacious dreams. So, see how I told you I help you do that? I am also on the road, right? It's like I have accomplished and reached a certain level, but I'm always striving for the next level, which is the purpose really of personal development and personal growth. We're always striving and learning and growing and expanding. It's not a process that ever ends. So this was part of my intention, rebelliously believing in my biggest and most audacious dreams. And if you're not familiar with the zodiac, Aquarius is an air sign, which has to do with our thoughts, communication, and it is the last of the air signs. So it also has to do with the collective, the big picture. How does your actions or your identity or um, um, your contributions add or benefit or help in some way the collective and the big picture. So it'll be interesting what I noticed through my lunar lessons based on that and through, you know, jotting it down. So first off, intentions, if you're new to this as well, intentions, the way that I have learned that really resonates with me are feelings based. So how do you want to feel? I want to feel like the CEO and of my life and business. Like I am in charge and creating and forging the path that I want to, and rebelliously believing in my biggest dreams. That is a feeling, right? Believing in it, that belief, faith, that what I desire is coming my way, and leaning in that faith, even though I don't always see the evidence or not quite yet. So that's a little bit of Aquarius, a little bit of a very sociable and uh, that's overall keywords that might be associated with Aquarius. So being my being my authentic self rebelliously is what I'm going to touch on. Um, and what I found as I set my intention and identified action steps or where I wasn't quite taking new actions, to move myself forward in that aspect. The overall lesson that I kept getting in various messages and um, well, messages, but in various forms, I guess I should say. Sometimes it was something someone said, or something that I pulled, got from a card pull, or something that as I was journaling, it came up again. So the the focus that I realized was, or the lesson that I focused on, was focusing on my identity and who I identify and show up as in the world, and do that more and more often, is how I will actually contribute to the collective. So, focusing on myself to help and show the way and show what is possible and be an example of going through the process is how I am, will, and can continue to help the collective, which is the public, you guys, and society, and my family, and my friends. All of that is the collective. So instead of focusing on what is the biggest thing that I can do, what is the biggest, sometimes we think when we want to contribute and help to the collective, or we're thinking very big picture, which the collective is, we think, what is the biggest thing that we can do? And what kept coming up for me this lunar cycle is focus on myself and being myself, that unique little mosaic, piece of the mosaic, right? No other piece looks like me, acts like me, all in the same measure. So my little unique mosaic piece is what actually contributes to the collective, and getting more and more comfortable in the identity of the CEO of my life and the CEO of my business. Overall, I see myself as not quite at the end, but very close to switching that identity from an employee mindset and identity to that of a CEO and who is in charge. And so I say that as in my life and not only my business, because a lot of times that employee mentality or that employee way of thinking carries over or maybe even sometimes starts in our personal life. Like we have to ask our parents for permission, right? We have to ask teachers for permission to do things. We look for their approval or their permission. And so that carries into the employee way of thinking. Like I have to do what my boss says, I have to get permission to take days off. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee. I have been an employee since I started working. But we can carry and learn how to embody this. I am the CEO of my life. And yes, these are roles I play and these are facets of my life. But can you start to embody that energy of being the CEO of your life, where it's not always looking for someone else's approval, looking for someone else's permission? And that's at least how it came across for me this lunar cycle. And I think that way, because like I said, I don't really strongly identify as an employee anymore. I identify more as a business owner. So I kind of see that as a stepping stone to fully stepping into CEO and of my life and business. So it's kind of like that bridge position, that in between position that I find myself identifying as now. The business owner, where I started my business, I am taking the steps, but I'm still kind of looking for approval or permission sometimes by default. And the work is intentionally changing those thoughts and those actions that I take to more fully step into and embody the energy and identity of the CEO of my life and business. So if that is something that resonates with you, jot that down or come back to it and just see how that might look or play out in your life as well. So, because these are truly personal to me. I'm not lessons like I'm trying to teach as overall, like this is what I want you to focus on. I am sharing absolutely my personal experiences, and some of that may resonate with you, or maybe something I say now will be triggered. You'll remember it later on down the line. Or you just come to these lunar lessons to say, you know what? Sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't, because the previous lunar lessons, which was a recap, I really walked through that process and shared with you how it was not always easy and it doesn't always go as planned, and sometimes I didn't have the energy or the capacity to set a formal new moon intention. So go back and check out the last one, which was a recap of several lunar cycles. So focusing on the identity and who I identify as, showing up as that person is how I contribute to the collective. Showing the collective what's possible. And like I said, the collective can be anything from my family, my friends, my acquaintances, other business owners, people who are just starting. So we're always in that, put a bookmark there. We're always, or a healthy way to be is we're always in the middle. We're always in a place where we're reaching down or helping someone out who is not quite as far as us, and also in a position to reach up or receive help from other people. It's that harmonious interaction or existence of those two things. Sometimes there'll be more of asking for help or receiving help. Sometimes there'll be more focus on giving it or providing it. And a lot of times we're kind of just right there in the middle of both of them. And that's really what I have found, is realizing that it is evolving. It's not always one or the other. It's a constant shift and seeing what the balance is in creating that harmony, what the focus should be or needs to be based on the season of life you're in, the circumstances you find yourself in. So just be aware that that is what we strive to both give help and be receptive and get help, but not to get stuck in one, like constantly being the one that's giving help and having our energy and resources depleted and not giving ourselves that in between time to be kind of neutral or also receive help. So that's how I can help the collective, showing them what is possible. And then what I wrote down, I put with a big asterisk, was overall was breaking things down into smaller pieces. So although Aquarius is about the collective, lots of things came up for me this lunar cycle of, okay, looking at the big picture, looking at the end result is too overwhelming. That's what was keeping me or has been keeping me from taking actions and from making more progress than I have been because I'm looking to put my focus and energy on the big thing. And by doing that, it feels hard, it feels far away, it feels overwhelming. And so I do nothing or not as much or not to the level, right, that I could be doing. So by learning that the goal, the dream, the desire, whatever it is, it's out there. We've already identified it. Or if not, taking actions and focusing on the little pieces is what will help get clear, develop clarity and show, the way or the aha of what it is that you might be working towards. So focusing on the smaller pieces versus the big picture, because the big picture is too overwhelming. And ultimately, every little piece, every little step, every little unique mosaic contributes to the big picture, to the end result. So if this is, getting healthy for you, or if it's finding a different job or building your home, anything that you're working towards, that's the big overall goal. And breaking it into smaller pieces is the thing, because I keep saying it here too, the thing that kept coming up for me this lunar cycle. So once I realized that and actually started doing it and reflecting during the waning half of the lunar cycle, I could see how these dots were connecting. And I could see how, oh, okay, how always focusing on the big picture or the end result felt too hard. It felt too far away. So if my brain was saying, if it's that far away, why even bother? It's still so far away. Just do this minimal, and as you get closer, we'll take bigger steps, is really what the story that my brain was telling me. And so now it becomes my job to rewrite that. Excuse me, to rewrite that and say, no, I will get there faster by focusing on the little steps, the one task, the one habit, and then building on that cumulatively will move me faster. It goes back to that saying, if you've heard it, slow down to speed up. So we try to get to the end so fast by skipping over these little steps, and really by taking the focus away from the big picture, because it's always going to be there, and focusing on the little ones is actually how we build that speed and that momentum, at least for myself, that I have found. And so that's really overall focusing on the little pieces that contribute to the collective or the big picture was my overall lunar lesson this for the Aquarius new moon. Stemming from the intention, like I said, of authenticity as the CEO of my life and business, as I wrote it in my journal as biz, and rebelliously believing in my biggest and most audacious dreams. So how does that concept of little pieces, focusing on that, have anything to do with rebelliously believing in my biggest and most audacious dreams? Well, I build confidence in myself. I build trust in myself by showing myself the little steps that I accomplish along the way to get to the bigger ones. And that confidence, that evidence, like, oh, yes, look, I accomplished this little thing. And then I accomplished this little thing. Oh, that strengthens that belief and that faith in myself, and subsequently strengthens the belief and the faith that my dreams are all there, ready and waiting for me. It's just up to me to become that person. So that's how focusing on the little pieces, on the little bits, on the little tasks can subsequently help you develop that belief and that faith in yourself and in your dreams. Start small and build that foundation of trusting yourself, of keeping your word to yourself, of getting back on track when you don't, because we're human and that will happen. And learning to give yourself grace and say, okay, that time it didn't work. Why? Do I need to try a different way? Do I need to do something different? Why is it that it didn't work? And you start to look at it as data instead of beating yourself up for it. It's like, okay. And also, one of the biggest things that I realized by learning that focus, like, why didn't it work? Why didn't I stick with it long enough? Or, past this amount of time, was that I was focusing on the wrong thing. Anytime we're learning a new way of doing something, a new way of being, we think it should be automatic and that we should be great at it right away. There's a learning curve. So realizing that took the pressure off of me to think, oh, I have to get this right away. It's like, no, the process is, am I committed to it? Do I keep coming back to it? Do I stick with it? Do I find another way that works? And that in and of itself, coming back and keeping going and not giving up, also by default strengthens my belief in myself and, my belief in my dreams. I keep with it. I stick with it. Yeah. So like, then yeah, I do. I am tenacious. I am committed. All these steps are showing me that, because even when the things didn't work and when I didn't meet my goals and when I didn't even have, I continued to and see, realize that I am committed. And so I believe in myself a little bit more. And that strengthens every time that little cycle repeats. And then the last thing that I want to leave you guys with that I learned is, we have intentions if you set them, and we have goals. And how I always talk about how becoming the person who has the dreams, who's already living that, is how you attract them. And I mentioned this at the beginning, that it also attracts unexpected manifestations or unexpected things that you might not have been working on or focusing on at the time. And the reason that happens is because as you continue to become the next version of yourself, the up-leveled version, step into more and more of the identity that you're working towards, things that are a match to that energetically and vibrationally become attracted to you. And so some you may take advantage of, some you may say, oh, cool, but that's not for me. But you start to attract these like extra unintentional things because they match the energy that you are embodying. They match the vibration that you are putting out into the world. So I have learned to look at that also as, what did I intentionally manifest this lunar cycle? And what did I unintentionally manifest this lunar cycle? And sometimes there may be an answer to one or the other or to both. And maybe sometimes I don't realize it or I don't see it quite yet. So what I jotted down for this lunar cycle for the Aquarius was, my intentional manifestation was clarity. Clarity on the workshop structure that I will be for the workshops that I will be offering. I knew that I wanted to do workshops. And so with this focus of being and showing up and identifying as the CEO of my life, I, you know, heard information or I realized things, and that focusing on the little pieces helped me to get clarity on my workshop structure that I will be sharing. And now it's like it was just like a weight lifted off because I'm like, "Oh, I don't have to come up with something new all the time. I can repeat the cycle." Because guess what? The lunar cycle repeats every month. Why am I thinking that I have to come up with something new all the time? It's just find a rhythm, find a flow, and find a cycle because that's what the moon has been doing for millennia. So, with clarity on that workshop structure and how I will be sharing it and putting them together. The unintentional manifestation was I was able to attend a retreat, a recharge, and oh, I forgot the exact recharge and reconnect or something along those lines. I attended a retreat, let's see, a couple weeks ago in out in the desert, and it was with 6 women were there. And so we spent the weekend, and really I did get my batteries recharged, connecting with that collective, right? And my unique perspective contributed, my unique presence, my unique energy contributed to having a really good weekend, as did all of the other attendees. So I see that as my unintentional manifestation to really recharge my batteries, like the retreat says, get some clarity, meet some new people. And I realize that that connection is really important, to do that periodically and connect with like-minded people, whether they're business owners or not, because not everybody that attended was a business owner. Some people were really focusing on moving up in their careers, but it still calls on that energy of being the CEO of your life and embodying that identity. And it was fabulous. So that attending the retreat and the opportunity to do so was my unintentional manifestation for the Aquarius lunar cycle. So, like I said, I'm recording this February 26th, 2023. And so tomorrow, Monday, the 27th, is going to be the first quarter moon for the Pisces lunar cycle. So you might want to start taking some action, maybe based on what you heard today, or it triggered something that you might want to implement. And if you don't listen to this like right on the 27th, the first quarter phase lasts several days, just like every lunar phase does. And if you're listening to us well past that in the future, you can still glean some information from this, or some knowledge, or something that you might want to apply or jot down or keep in mind. So there is an infinite number of ways that this will hopefully continue to help the collective, like from my point. So thank you guys. I look forward to sharing my next lunar lessons with you. And if you have any questions, just feel free to email me at vision, VISION, at bluemoonmanifestations.com. And you can also share any topics or ideas that you would like me to talk about on the podcast that same way. So thank you guys. Have a great lunar cycle, and I will see you soon. Bye.